Hey rail fans, welcome. This is going to be a product review of the Rivarossi U25C engines, lettered for Pennsylvania. I went ahead and picked up both road numbers of this engine. We'll go ahead and look at the details on the engine. We'll listen to the LokSound Select decoder that both of them have. We'll make some comparisons to the actual Pennsylvania U25Cs, and we'll certainly look at the pulling power of the engine and give some nice overall impressions. So with that, let's go ahead and head over to do the unboxing and start checking out the engine. I found the unboxing to be very straightforward. The engine does come with a little bit of literature explaining the LokSound Select decoder. And all in all, I thought it was well packed and well protected and did not have any issues directly out of the box with any of the details. One item of note, like I said, I purchased both road numbers of this engine, so during this review, sometimes you will see 6514 and sometimes you'll see 6519 during the review. Slow speed performance of this engine was outstanding. At speed step 1, it just really crawled forward very slow. And in addition to it moving so slowly and smoothly, one of the neat things about this engine is it actually does have rotating end bearing caps on the trucks, at least the ends that don't have speed recorders on them. And so here you can see a close-up of them actually rotating as it goes along here at speed step 1. And it's a really nice detail that does catch your eye some. But at speed step 1, I actually couldn't get a recording of how slow the engine was moving, in that it was too slow that my AccuTrack speedometer wouldn't register it. So it was somewhere down below 0.1 scale miles an hour. But even at speed step 1 there, even though it was so super slow, there was a little bit of hesitation in there. So I went ahead and moved it up to speed step 3, and even at that, it was nice and smooth, and you're still going a scale 1.2 miles an hour. I found the model did actually have a scale top speed of 86 scale miles an hour, which is a little faster than the U25C's actual top speed of 70 miles an hour. In testing the running performance of the engine on my layout, I found that it ran very well. Here it is going through some insulated frog switches, and there's no interruption in the sound, no flicker in the lights, no jerkiness or hesitation as it goes through these switches. Nice and smooth both forwards and backwards. In going through the double crossover on my layout, the engine was still nice and smooth, but there was a little bit of a wobble as it went through the double crossover. Just enough made it a little bit noticeable. Not too bad. It was still pretty smooth. The sound was still good and the lights were still good. But it wasn't quite as flawlessly perfect as it was on the other pieces of track. I found pulling power of the engine to be absolutely superb. This engine would pull all by itself 52 cars around my layout. That was on pretty much level track. There was a small section of 1% grade, but it was going through quite a bit of curves, in excess of 360 degrees of curves as it was pulling those 52 cars. So absolutely phenomenal pulling power for this engine. Alright, now that we have seen how this engine performs, let's go ahead and listen to the LokSound Select decoder as we check out the details of this engine. Pennsylvania Railroad owned 20 U-25Cs, and they received their first 10 of these in April 1965, and then the second 10 showed up later that year in November and December 1965. And Pennsy classified all of their U-25Cs into a single class of the GF-25A class. Pensy's U-25Cs were assigned to the system pool at Enola and saw mainline freight service across the system. Both numbers that Rivarossi did, 6514 and 6519, are out of the second order, and in addition to the road numbers being correct for that order, they also have the details for that order because there were some minor differences between Pensy's first and second order. And while most commonly associated with heavy iron ore and coal trains, the Pensy's U-25Cs actually pulled every type of freight train at one time or another, and were even used in helper service for a while. And all 20 of Pensy's U-25Cs survived not only into the Penn Central era, but all the way into the Conrail era prior to being disposed of. Looking back at the model, there are lots of things I really like about this engine. In addition to its superb slow-speed performance and pulling power, all the nice details on it and everything really pop and really stand out, and the engine just looks phenomenal and performs really well. In addition to that, I think Rivarossi did an excellent job getting the Brunswick green color for the Pennsy paint accurate, and the lettering is nice and crisp for the small little details, the keystones, and the numbers. Having said that, there are a couple things that I did notice that kind of caught my eye and I didn't like so well. One of the things I noticed on this engine is there's actually a lot of negative space or open space between the top of the trucks and the bottom of the engine, to where you can actually see a lot of light around the trucks. And that's a little bit more than what you can see in the actual photos of the U-25Cs. Mostly when you look at a nice side shot of the actual engines, it's almost entirely black in there, and you can't really see all the way through the engine like that. For the number boards, they were nice and bright. However, there was light leaking around the edges of both number boards on both engines, on the front and the rear, you can see. So instead of being nice and opaque around the edge, you can actually see light leaking around the edge of the number board. And in addition, because of the photo-etched grills and things on the roof of the long hood, you could actually see the light coming through there pretty prominently too. And so this is the number boards turning off and on. That light leaks through. And this is just the rear headlight or rear light bleeding through as well. And so you can see both of those. Now, by the time Pennsy acquired the U-25Cs, they had already discontinued the use of their distinctive train phone antennas, so the U-25Cs correctly do not have those kind of details on them. However, the U-25Cs were equipped with radios, and so they had a radio decal or sticker, or possibly it was just painted on the cab, indicating that the engine was radio equipped. Now, the actual location of this decal or sticker, whatever, actually varied somewhat engine to engine. Although in all the photos I've seen, it's somewhere below the cab number, but some of the engines it's right under the first digit of the cab number, some it's under the last digit of the cab number, and everywhere in between. For 6514 and 6519, while Rivarossi has the decal in the right general area, it's not exactly in the exact location for those two road numbers. Additionally, Rivarossi did not include an antenna on the cab of the engine, and so if you've got the radio decal on the side of the cab, you should have an antenna on the roof of the cab. On both of my engines, the yellow ends on the handrails were very opaque and very nice and crisply painted, and I like how they looked a lot. But there were two minor imperfections on them, one on each engine, where the yellow had not completely covered the underlying handrail, or it had rubbed off, and so that'll need to be touched up. Additionally, the air horn on one of my engines was not perfectly parallel with the long hood. It was off angle just a little bit, and so I'll have to try and straighten that later on. The speed recorders that Rivarossi has added to the trucks of the engine are a real nice detail, and they're accurate in their placement, But one thing is they are only attached to the trucks. They're not attached at all to the engine body itself. And so at some angles, when you're looking at the trucks, you can see that. Some other angles you can't. But you'll have to look at that and decide for yourself if that bothers you or not. One item I will point out is that there are classification lights on the nose and the rear of the locomotive. However, they're non-functional. And so unfortunately, Rivarossi chose to not make these functional, so you can't light them up and have them change colors the way they would on the actual U25Cs during the 1960s. And the last thing I'll point out here on this engine is the handrails. They're actually metal, and so they don't have some of the fine up-close detail that some other manufacturers' handrails have, but they are very strong and sturdy and nice and straight. And if you want to learn a little more about the Pennsy U25Cs, I highly recommend Pennsy Diesels 1924 to 1968 by Douglas and Whalen, as well as Pennsylvania Railroad Diesel Locomotive Pictorial Volume 11, Alco and GE Road Switchers by Withers. Alright guys, that's just about going to do it for this review. All in all, I think this is an outstanding engine with superb pulling power and slow speed performance, excellent details, good coloration, and all in all, a really nice locomotive. Hopefully you found it useful. And until next time, remember as always, keep running your trains, keep enjoying them, and we'll catch you at the next update.